8. A happy lover who is come to look on her that loves him well, who lights and rings the gateway bell, and learns her gone and far from home, he saddens all the magic light, dies off at once from bower and hall, and all the place is dark and all the chambers emptied of delight. So find I every pleasant spot in which we two were wont to meet, the field, the chamber, and the street, for all is dark where thou art not. Yet as that other, wandering there, in those deserted walks, may find a flower beat with rain and wind, which once she fostered up with care, so seems it in my deep regret. O my forsaken heart, with thee and this poor flower a posy, which little care for, fades not yet, but since it pleased a vanished eye, I go to plant it on his tomb, that if it can, it there may bloom, our dying there at least may die. Now, a lot of people used to believe that if you put a flower or some plant on the grave, that would stave off the punishment of the grave, or some such thing. 9. Fair ship, that from the Italian shore sailest the placid ocean plains, with my lost Arthur's loved remains, spread thy full wings and waft him o'er, so draw him home to those that mourn, and vain a favourable speed ruffle thy mirrored mass, and lead through prosperous floods his holy urn. All night no rudder e'er perplex thy sliding keel, till phosphor bright, as our pure love through early light, shall glimmer on the dewy decks. Spear all your lights around above. Sleep, gentle heavens before the prow. Sleep, gentle winds, as he sleeps now, my friend, the brother of my love, my Arthur, whom I shall not see, till all my widowed race be run, dear as the mother to the son, more than my brothers are to me. Well, there's always a method to the madness, right? 10. I hear the noise about thy keel, I hear the bell struck in the night, I see the cabin window bright, I see the sailor at the wheel. Thou bringest the sailor to his wife, and travelled men from foreign lands, and letters into rambling hands, and thy dark fright, a vanished life. So bring him, we have idle dreams. This look of quiet flatters thus our homebred fantasies. O to us, the fools of habit, sweeter seems to rest beneath the clover sod that takes the sunshine and the rains, or where the kneeling hamlet drains the chalice of the grapes of God. Then if with thee the roaring wells should gulf and fathom deep in brine, and hands so often clasp in mine should toss with tangle and with shells, it's important sometimes to realize what are the empty hopes. 11. Calm is the morn without a sound, calm as to suit a calmer grief, and only through the faded leaf the chestnut pattering to the ground, calm and deep peace on this high wold, and on these dews that drench the firs, and all the silvery gossamers that twinkle into green and gold, calm and still light on yon great plain that sweeps with all its autumn bowers, and crowded farms and lessening towers to mingle with the bounding main. Calm and deep peace in this wide air, these leaves that redden to the fall, and in my heart, if calm at all, if any calm, a calm despair, calm on the seas, and silver sleep, and waves that sway themselves in rest, and dead calm in that noble breast, which heaves, but with the heaving deep. And there's a time to become content. So exist in that moment. 12. Low as a dove, when up she springs, to bear through heaven a tale of woe, some dolorous message knit below the wild pulsation of her wings. Like her I go, I cannot stay, I leave this mortal ark behind, a weight of nerves without a mind, and leave the cliffs, and haste away o'er ocean meres rounded large, and reach the glow of southern skies, and see the sails at distance rise, and linger weeping on the marge, and saying, comes he thus, my friend? Is this the end of all my care? And circle moaning in the air, is this the end? Is this the end? And forward dart again and play about the prow, and black return to where the body sits, and learn that I have been an hour away. Time can expand and contract as far as our perception of it. "13. Tears of the widower, when he sees a late frost form that sleep reveals, and moves his doubtful arms, and feels her place is empty, fall like these, which weep a loss forever new, a void where heart on heart respond, and where warm hands have pressed and closed, silence till I be silent too, which weep the comrade of my choice, an awful thought, a life removed, the human hearted man I loved, a spirit, not a breathing voice. Come time and teach me many years, I do not suffer in a dream. For now, so strange do these things seem, mine eyes have leisure for their tears, my fancies time to rise on wing, and glance about the approaching sails, as though they brought but merchants' bales, and not the burthen that they bring. The driving force is certainly more important than the physical things that can come through at times. 14. If one should bring me this report, that thou hadst touched the land today, and I went down into the quay, and found thee lying in the port, and standing muffled round with woe, should see the passengers in rank come stepping lightly down the plank, and beckoning unto those they know. And if along with these should come the man I held as half divine, should strike a sudden hand in mine, and ask 1,000 things of home, and I should tell him all my pain, and how my life had drooped of late, and he should sorrow o'er my state, and marvel what possessed my brain, and I perceived no touch of change, no hint of death in all his frame, but found him all in all the same, I should not feel it to be strange. Sometimes we just need to deal with other people's situations and respond to that. But sometimes a sharing companion in such things is 15. Tonight the winds begin to rise and roar from yonder drooping day. The last red leaf is whirled away. The rooks are blown about the skies. The forest cracked, the waters curled. The cattle huddled on the lea, and wildly dashed on tower and tree. The sunbeam strikes along the world, and but for fancies which aver that all thy motions gently pass athwart a plain of molten glass, I scarce could brook the straiten and stir that makes the barren branches loud, and but for fear it is not so, the wild unrest that lives in woe would dote and pour on yonder cloud that rises upward always higher, on upward drags a laboring breast, and topples round the dreary west, a looming bastion fringed with fire. So what are your weaknesses, and what can you do to prevent a fall? 16. What words are these have fallen from me, can calm despair and wild unrest, be tenants of a single breast? Our sorrow such a changeling be, are thus she only seemed to take the touch of change in calm or storm, but knows no more of transient form in her deep self than some dead lake that holds the shadow of a lark, hung in the shadow of a heaven, or has the shock so harshly given confused me like the unhappy bark that strikes by night a craggy shelf and staggers blindly ere she sink, and stunned me from my power to think and all my knowledge of myself, and made me that delirious man whose fancy fuses old and new, and flashes into false and true, and mingles all without a plan. Be careful not to over-add details, make a story artificially full, because you may not know the truth from falsehood someday. 17. Thou comest, much wet for such a breeze, compelled thy canvas, and my prayer was as the whisper of an air to breathe thee over lonely seas. For I in spirit saw thee move through circles of the bounding sky. Week after week the days go by. Come quick, thou bringest all I love. Henceforth, wherever thou mayest roam, my blessing, like a line of light, is on the waters day by night, and like a beacon guards thee home. So may whatever tempest mars mid-ocean spare thee, sacred bark, and balmy drops in summer dark slide from the bosom of the stars. So kind an office hath been done, such precious relics brought by thee. The dust of him I shall not see, till all my widowed race be run. How can your comfort even, how can your presence even be a comfort? 22. The path by which we twain did go, which led by tracks that pleased us well, through 4 sweet years arose and fell, from flower to flower, from snow to snow, and we with singing cheered the way, and crowned her with all the season lent, from April on to April went, and glad at heart from May to May. But where the path we walked began to slant the 5th autumnal slope, as we descended following hope, there sat the shadow feared of man, who broke our fair companionship, and spread his mantle dark and cold, and wrapped thee formless in the fold, and dulled the murmur on thy lip, and bore thee whence I could not see, nor follow thou. I walk in haste, and think that somewhere in the waste the shadow sits and waits for me. Make your spiritual use of these cycles of nature. 23. Now sometimes in my sorrow shut, are breaking into song by fits, alone to where he sits, the shadow cloaked from head to foot, who keeps the layers of all creeds. I wander often failing lame, and looking back to whence I came, or on to where pathway leads, and crying how changed from where it ran, through lands where not a leaf was dumb, but all the lavish hills would hum the murmur of a happy Pan, when each by turns was guide to each, and fancy light from fancy caught, and thought leapt out to wed with thought, ere thought could wed itself with speech, and all we met was fair and good, and all was good that time could bring, and all the secret of the spring moved in the chambers of the blood. And many an old philosophy on Argive heights divinely sang, and round us all the thickest rang to many a flute of Arcady. And nature's certainly there to be good to us. 26. still onward wends the dreary way, I with it, for I long to prove no lapse of moons can canker love, whatever fickle tongues may say. And if that eye which watches guilt and goodness hath power to see within the green of the mouldered tree, and towers fallen as soon as built, oh, if indeed that eye foresee, our see in him is no before, and more of life, true life, no more, and love the indifference to be, then might I find, ere yet the morn breaks hither over Indian seas, that shadow waiting with the keys to shroud me from my proper scorn. A lot of things to learn in the East, particularly India. 28. The time draws near the birth of Christ. The moon is hid, the night is still. The Christmas bells from hill to hill answer each other in the mist. Four voices of the hamlets round, from far and near, on mead and moor, swell out and fail, as if a door were shut between me and the sound. Each voice four changes on the wind, that now dilate and now decrease. Peace and goodwill, goodwill and peace. Peace and goodwill to all mankind. This year I slept and woke with pain. I almost wished no more to wake, and that my hold on life would break, before I heard those bells again. But they my troubled spirit rule, for they controlled me when a boy. They bring me sorrow, touched with joy, the merry, merry bells of Yule. When it comes to certain seasonals and certain rituals and stuff like this, the different musical patterns are very often how to figure it out without anything more. I mean, which ceremony's which, I mean, which entity or category or, 29. With such compelling cause to grieve as daily hexes household peace, and chains regret to his decease, how dare we keep our Christmas Eve, which brings no more to a welcome guest, to enrich the threshold of the night with showered largesse of delight, and dance and song and games and jest. Let go, and while the holly boughs entwine the cold baptismal font, make one wreath more for use and wont, that guard the portals of the house. Old sisters of a day gone by, grey nurses, loving nothing new, why should they miss their yearly due before their time? They too will die. 30. With trembling fingers did we weave the holly round the Christmas hearth. A rainy cloud possessed the earth, and sadly fell our Christmas Eve. At our old pastimes in the hall, we gambled, making vain pretense of gladness with an awful sense of one mute shadow watching all. We paused, the winds were in the beach, we heard them sweep the winter land, and in a circle, hand in hand, sat silent, looking each at each. Then echo, like our voices rang. We sung, though every eye was dim, a merry song we sang with him. Last year, Impetuously we sang, we ceased, a gentler feeling crept upon us, surely rest is meet. They rest, we said, their sleep is sweet. And silence followed, and we wept. Our voices took a higher range. Once more we sang, they do not die, nor lose their mortal sympathy, nor change to us, although they change, rapt from the fickle and the frail, with gathered power, yet the same, pierces the keen seraphic flame. From orb to orb, from veil to veil, rise, happy morn. Rise, holy morn. Draw forth the cheerful day from night. O Father, touch the east and light, the eye that shone when hope was born. 33. O thou that after toil and storm may it seem to have reached a purer air, whose faith has centre everywhere, nor cares to fix itself to form, leave thou thy sister when she prays her early heaven, her happy views, nor thou with shadowed hint confuse a life that leads melodious days. Her faith through form is pure as thine, her hands are quicker unto good. O sacred be the flesh and blood to which she links a truth design. See thou that countest reason white, and holding by the law within, thou fail not in a world type of sin, and even for want of such a type. 37. Urania speaks with darkened brow. Thou pratest here, or thou art least. This faith has many a purer priest, and many an abler voice than thou. Go down beside thy native rill, on thy Parnassus set thy feet, and hear thy laurel whisper sweet about the ledges of the hill. Amai Malpomne applies a touch of shame upon her cheek. I am not worthy even to speak of thy prevailing mysteries, for I am but an earthly muse, and owing but a little art to lull with song an aching heart, to render human love his dues, but brooding on the dear one dead, and all be said things divine, and dear to me as sacred wine to dying lips, is all he said. I murmured as I came along, of comfort clasped in truth revealed, and loitered in the Master's field, and darkened sanctifies with song. Authentic talk. Good, even when very little, definitely outweighs that which is not. 40. Could we forget the widowed hour, and look on spirits breathed away, as on a maiden in the day when she first wears her orange flower, when crowned with blessing she doth rise to take her latest leave of home, and hopes and light regrets that come make April of her tender eyes, and doubtful joys the Father move and tears are on the mother's face, as parting with a long embrace, she enters other realms of love. Her office there to rear, to teach, becoming, as is meet and fit, a link among the days to knit the generations each with each. And doubtless unto thee is given a life that bears immortal fruit, to those great offices that suit full-grown energies of the heaven. Me, the difference I discern, how often shall her old fireside be cheered with tidings of the bride, how often she herself returns. And tell them all they would have told, and bring her babe, and make her boast, and even those that missed her most shall count new things as dear as old. But thou and I have shaken hands, till growing winters lay me low. My paths are in the fields I know, and thine in undiscovered lands. 41. Thy spirit ere our fatal loss did ever rise from higher to higher, as mounts the heavenward altar fire, as flies the lighter through the gross. But thou art turned to something strange, and I have lost the links that bound thy changes here upon the ground. No more partaker of thy change, deep folly yet, that this could be, that I could wing my will with might, to leap the grades of life and light, and flash at once, my friend, to thee. For thou, my nature, rarely yields that vague fear implied in death, nor shudders at the gulfs beneath, the howlings from forgotten fields. Yet oft when sundown skirts the moor, an inner trouble I behold, a spectral doubt which makes me cold, that I shall be thy mate no more. Thou following with an upward mind the wonders that have come to thee through all the secular to be, but evermore a life behind. So appreciate your role and appreciate the role of others.